Let me into your world and show me yours. You know everything about my life, but I barely know you. I wish we had real conversations, not just rules. And the need for parents to, again, not easy, because sometimes we're so busy being parents and authoritarian, and this is what you do, but we forget to show that we're humans, and we have to show that to our children.
Yeah, but sometimes, if you're almost a bit too close or you're too friendly with them, then boundaries can be crossed. Sometimes I'll have to say, I want to be friendly with you, but I'm not your friend, I'm still your mom.
Hi, I'm Yaakov Barr, and welcome to Between the Lines, powered by JTeen. We're going to talk about all the issues that are so important, and so many of them that we don't really like talking about. We're going to talk about emotional health. We're going to talk about relationships, the pressures, the struggles that we are under on a day-to-day basis. I think this episode is going to be really powerful. About 15 years ago, I was reading an article by a psychologist that went around asking thousands of pupils in America, asked them one thing. If you could write down one thing that you wished your parents would know, what would it be? And he gathered all these thousands of entries and he put it into a book. And then I was thinking, well, maybe we should also do that. And so for the last 10 years, I've gone around, whether it's people I've seen in my private practice or people on JTeen or the schools that we've visited, and I've asked them the same question. If there's one thing you wish your parents knew, and I've gathered all these together, and that's what this episode is going to be about, talking about the key, the most common, the most powerful things that our children wished we would know. So with me today, BatSheva, you're
Hi,
back.
I'm back. Good to be back.
Thank you very much. You bring your experience as a parent, as a volunteer for JTeen. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And our special guest today is a fabulous therapist, but I am biased because you're also my sister-in-law, Tehilla Birnbaum. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to join you today.
Thank you. Right, so let's get going. I want to start with one that really and truly, if I had it my way, I wouldn't have included it because I'm as guilty as anyone else. I think we all are. But it's so important because the modern world has created a problem. And many of the teens that we asked this question to said like this: put down your phone and look at me. One person said, you say I'm always on my phone, but when I walk in, you barely look up. It feels like I don't matter. It's so hard. Like, we live in a world where the world is on our phone. And it's really hard to give our kids the attention.
Yeah, I'm totally guilty of that. I'd love to say I'm not. I really try. I do have a time where, a lot of the things switch off. I was actually just listening to a podcast where a psychologist was recommending that when you do switch off your phone onto a different mode, you should put it into grayscale, because the colours are much more enticing. As soon as it's on grayscale, then it, is less enticing. But it's really difficult because everything's on my phone. Everything.
Do you
From
work
ordering
on your
pizza?
phone?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I
You
work
also
on my phone.
Like same.
Yeah.
It is a hard one, and actually this was one of the points that I was thinking about when I saw your list. So I really try to do that when my kids come home from school. I'll put my phone on silent and I'll turn my phone upside down. Right? So that way there's no colours, there's nothing enticing me. But I've noticed when I do that, and I just, at this stage of my life, just have my one daughter, she comes home first. So I'm just sitting with me and her, but it's almost not enough for her. She'll say to me, now give me eye contact, look at me. And I just think, what's normal and what's not? Should we really be 100%? Did we get 100%? Not that that was the right thing either, but is that what the kids need, or is that too much?
Yeah,
because that could also be intense.
Yeah, and I do think that everyone thinks this is a problem in 2025, but there's a really funny meme where you see all these people on the train reading their newspapers, so every single person's got a newspaper. And I still remember someone saying to me, I remember coming home and my mother was on the phone with the cord and being so frustrated that she wasn't speaking to me that she actually cut the cord. Right? So this has been a problem forever.
That's a really good point. And stuck in a room with a phone on the cord, whereas we can at least move around.
Yeah.
Good point.
But essentially, I do think our children do need our attention and they need the eye contact. It's all that attachment stuff,
But what's too much?
Look at them.
What's too much?
Too much what?
Too much eye contact, too much attention. Is there such a thing as too much attention?
I think each child, if you've got your antennae on, then certain children need a bit more, others it gets a bit much.
Yeah.
I think it's more that they want to, let's say when they come home from school or something like that, you don't need to get all intense and tell me about every detail of the day, but at least, show that you realise I've come through the door.
Yeah, an interest.
And that very often, if something's just come through on the phone, you just got another notification or something, then, the whole world now gets forgotten because you're busy on the phone.
Yeah, it is about that focus, I think. I think you're right when they come in, just to give them that full attention,
right.
Eye contact, if you can,
some
love.
For sure.
Depends what in the middle of.
But it's interesting because I've noticed when I first started writing about like phone addiction or whatever, the first, which was probably also about 15 years ago, when I first wrote it, I wrote that people should switch their phone off. And then a few years later, I wrote that people should now put their phone on silent because no one's going to turn it off anymore.
We never turn our phones off.
Never.
So, the world's changed. It's on the whole time. It's just a matter of whether people really struggle to, put it on silent and away for half an hour.
Yeah, I think it has to be upside down. Otherwise, you are going to be enticed. I think even the grayscale, I'd still be like, doing that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but our kids definitely need our attention. Is there such a thing as too much?
You don't think so?
I think our kids need to know that we each have our own lives and we need to be busy with other things, but they also need to know that they are the most important thing in our life. And that's where I think, each child and each parent knows what their kids need.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us actually very nicely on to the next really common thing that kids wish that we, as parents, we would know. Also, very really powerful. Please look out for me. Sometimes I don't know how to ask for help.
Ooh.
And like what one person wrote, I act like everything's fine, but sometimes I'm just hoping someone will notice I'm not. Please don't wait for me to say the words. It's too hard sometimes. And that's an example where we do need to be aware of the children and maybe the slight differences. Why this week do they seem to be a bit quieter? Mm-hmm. Why is one a bit more in his room than he usually is? It's really being sensitive to how the kids are, which is hard to always be on top of it, especially if you've got a big family.
Yeah, just to be switched on with each child and their needs. So if you see one child is acting a bit out of character, to just go to them and say, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you want to talk about?
Right. Yeah. I think this is a hard one in terms of we have so much to think about. And Blian Hara, from families, I think people have a lot of children. So it's not, just have, depends. Every, family's different. But it's so hard to be constantly looking around and saying, what does my child need? When do they need me to, look out for them? But I do think that they want that from us. They don't want to have to come to us. They want us to have to go to them. And it's hard because we've got so much going on in our lives. But it is important.
Do you ever say something like specific to your kids? Like sometimes I'll say to them, you can tell me anything. You don't have to worry. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to punish you. You could tell me anything. Sometimes I feel like they are maybe holding back. So, do you have anything specific that you would say to a child that you feel they're not quite right?
You mean when I feel like something's not quite right? I think very often you could just ask them. But very often it's when you're in parallel conversation, which means you're just kind of in the kitchen or you're going on a, errand with them. That's very often when they, spill the beans.
Yeah.
Or late at night. It always happens late at night. Just when you're ready to retire and you think they're ready to retire and they're like, by the way.
I think that was that in your book? When you're like, that your kids want to come and speak to you really late at night.
I don't think so.
No, that wasn't in your book?
Do you agree? Do you agree it's a late at night thing?
I always used to tell my kids I'm not a mum after 10 o'clock at night. But then I realised that's when they're coming to me with all their issues.
We can see on JTeen, when's the busiest time is always later on. I think that's when people think about it. But here's like a slight difference, like a bit of a twist to this, because I think some parents will actually notice there's a problem, but actually don't want to see there's a problem.
I think it's very common that parents bring their children very often when they're quite far down the line. And very often I will say to parents, if you'd have brought this child a year and a half ago, we'd be dealing with very different things, because the parents are very anxious for the child to get better or to change, but we're dealing with something very, very different right now. So you've waited till the behaviors are so blatant and in your face that everyone can see them. But actually, this really started a long time ago. And the child will hands down say that, this started close to 2 years ago, and, they kind of regressed as they moved on. But it is hard, because I think that we want to deal with it, but also it's hard to admit that you're human and that your child's struggling.
Well, sometimes it's for ourselves, it's quite hard to be able to say that we look at it as a failure. If our child is struggling, has got a mental health problem, then we look at it as we have failed. Really, the parent hasn't failed, because there's so many, there's a multitude of reasons why a child might be struggling. You could be the best parent. It's one of those cruel things, because we tend to always look at, if a child's doing really well, great parents, child's doing really badly. There are children that I've seen in my practice, and it's one of the nisim and the great miracles. I'm thinking, like, I've met your parents. I don't know how you've turned out the way you have, but you have, and so it doesn't go like according to
but
quality of the
then
parents.
That's maybe why parents would wait, because they almost don't want to believe that this could be happening to their child.
Do you think it could be another reason? I know there was a child of mine was struggling with something, wasn't particularly big, and I went to speak to the doctor about it, and he's like, "Oh, it's fine. Your child will grow out of it. You can just leave it." I was too concerned to just leave it, so I went to seek some help, and it was the best thing.
Right.
And it got sorted, and it was, it was nothing. But so maybe it's not just the parents. Maybe there are also people out there that are guiding parents and guiding us that are saying, you can just leave it, and it might just go away.
I think it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's changing in England. But in England, I do feel that, people want to keep things very low and under the radar.
It's also the kids, though.
And the kids,
we had someone on
JTeen
I had someone on JTeen the other week who was self-harming. And I said to her, would you ever consider going for some therapeutic help? So she said, therapy is only for crazy people.
Right.
And that was the child herself who was struggling.
Got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, but that's feeding down. That's filtering down. Children don't come up with that themselves.
You would have heard it. But also, it's such a complicated process, therapy. Sometimes I think parents would actually want to take their children for help, but they don't really know where to start.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think is one of the purposes of this podcast is to actually simplify things, to make it that it's more accessible and people sort of understand what's going on a little bit.
And also that parents can see the different things that they should be looking out for. I think teenagehood, if that's a word, is quite a complex time and very confusing, both for the teen and for the parents. And parents don't know what to look out for. So if we, share these, then parents will hopefully think about the different things and be able to look out for those.
Yeah, and parents have to, I think everyone has to feel more confident to be able to. If you're not sure, don't wait.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with making an appointment with the GP, assuming that they know what they're talking about, or to phone up an expert and just to say, look, I'm concerned. This is what I'm seeing. Is this something that is normal, or is it something that's not? We don't have to wait till our children are tortured and struggling inside for us to go for help.
Is it a case of the earlier you go, the quicker or the more successful the therapy and the help is?
Absolutely.
Right.
Because the more entrenched something is, especially when it comes to mental health, you can have somebody who's got anxiety, but then if that anxiety goes on too long, then it starts affecting their mood. And then if we're talking about young people, it could affect school, so that starts becoming a crisis. And before you know it, that original problem has now
snowballed.
Gone, into all sorts of different things.
So I wouldn't, directly disagree with Yaakov Barr because he is the expert in this. But I do feel like very often when the kids are very young, we're talking about 8 or 9, I personally always encourage parents to try to deal with it themselves. So whether it's to, send them a link to a book that they can read with their child, whether it's to do something a bit more low-key like art therapy or play therapy or something they can access in school. Because in my opinion, if you push a young child into therapy where they actually don't know how to verbalize what they're experiencing too young, then when they really need it, then they won't want to go.
Because they'll be put off by their experience.
Because they'll be put off by their experience. So really, if parents can deal with it themselves, like reading the book and, working it through with them, there is some great material out there, then that is really the first line of, contact really with the child.
And you'll guide the parents.
And I'll guide them. I'll happily, yeah.
Here's something that's really powerful that many, many kids have said. Don't play favourites. It breaks us apart. One example, you always praise him for being from, and me, I'm the disappointment. It hurts more than you think. And it's really hard for parents to, you can have your child, a particular child who you connect to more. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. There's certain natures you will tend to connect to more, but it's when parents clearly favoritize one child over the next. And you know what? Everybody loses out. It's one of those unbelievable things. I once had somebody who came to me it was an Israeli, I think he was either a Rosh Shiva or a Mashgiach. I just know that he had a long beard. And he was probably in his 50s already.
He was Jewish.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And he started telling me about how he grew up and his mother he was the favourite child. And he said, still today, none of my siblings speak to me. And he's like crying as he's speaking. They all hate me because I was the favourite and they all resented it. And the pressure on me to be always sort of impressing my mother and to make sure that I sort of retain my status, he said it's destroyed me as well. So basically, the whole family have been sort of torn apart.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can praise a child because every child has their own, I guess, attributes and things that they're great at and good at. So it's trying to remember that if you're praising one and you connect with one child about, one particular, I guess, characteristic that they have, to then make sure and make an effort that each child feels special in their own way.
Yeah, I agree with you. All round, it's not beneficial because it doesn't help anyone. And I think at the end of the day, we do live in relation to other people. So we obviously try to work on our own self-esteem, our own self-confidence. But when we're seeing one person being praised, we automatically feel that we need to copy that behavior, which is not true, because really we should all be individuals and be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
I think sometimes teens or children take it out of context. We don't mean to favor it, but we will, let one kid do something without thinking and let the other one. So
there's always
sometimes we need to say them, we love you, we care about you, this is not about favorites. But sometimes it's very clear and that's just damaging.
And there'll always be like the easier children that are just easier.
Yeah.
And, naturally they're just going to be, but then they're also potentially going to get less attention.
Right.
So swings and roundabouts.
But you're doing a good job if all your children say, the other one's the favourite.
Does that mean you're doing a good job?
Then that's you favouritize the other child, then you must be a balanced parent.
Yeah.
BatSheva, absolutely, it is very hard because there'll be some children that are just easier and more pleasant to have around and sort of lower maintenance.
Yeah.
And I think automatically you'll gravitate a bit more to those children, whether the children which are, much more volatile and difficult. It's a bit harder, but I think from these we can see how damaging it is when parents just slightly get the tone a bit wrong. And I even remember once someone asking me, they were invited, this is already, we're talking about, this is the thing, it's not just about children, these are all adults, you can have adults who, the mother's already a great-grandmother probably, and she's choosing which home to go to for one of the Yom Tovim, and she always likes to go to a particular home because it's a bit bigger and it's a bit more enjoyable and the kids are better behaved. And just from that, all of the other siblings are now feeling resentful. Why does she always go to this house? So you can see it. It's sort of, it doesn't.
Can we ever win? Can we?
No.
Probably not.
Here's a one which is I think really, really important. Let me into your world and show me yours. You know everything about my life, but I barely know you. I wish we had real conversations, not just rules. And the need for parents to, again, not easy, because sometimes we're so busy being parents and authoritarian and this is what you do, but we forget to show that we're humans, and we have to show that to our children.
Yeah, I mean, but sometimes, if you're almost a bit too close or you're too friendly with them, then boundaries can be crossed. Sometimes I'll have to say, I want to be friendly with you, but I'm not your friend. I'm still your mom. You still have to say that sometimes. So you still have to have some kind of boundary, I think. But I hear that, to let them in, to show them what your day's like, what you're doing, and that's already...
I think even more. I think I would go and even to be able to show them some of your own struggles.
Right. Vulnerabilities.
Yeah. I very often will share my own struggles with them. When they're struggling with something, I say, I get worried too.
Does that not stress them out? If you tell them I'm like really worried about something, do you not think it will make your kids
I think that's
stressed?
where there's the difference between being a friend and being a parent. If you say, like, I'm worried about something and expect them to be there for you, that would be oversharing. Okay. But when they're experiencing something, or when you're talking about something, to share with them that you struggle too. And sometimes I worry about you, sometimes I worry about my work, sometimes I worry about the world. Then you're just showing them that they're human. You can then go on to share how you deal with your worries. That's even,
that's nice.
That's even more helpful. But I find that very often you can say, I've worked through this too. I was once a teen. I know you don't believe it. I was once there. But, I worked through this. And I do feel that's very helpful. And I feel that seeing the teens in my office, I do feel like they wish their parents would show them that they're struggling too. Because, they're being sent for therapy, so to speak, to deal with whatever it is. But really, there's a much bigger story. And let's be honest, everything filters down. If the child's struggling with anxiety, very often there's anxiety higher up. So, when you can kind of show that and share that, then it's so much easier for the child to deal with it themselves.
Well, the child doesn't feel so alone.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things we always see is, and this is children, but it's adults as much, is we always feel we're alone, and we're the only ones who have this. Everyone else has got perfect lives, and it's amazing. I'm the only one who gets panic attacks. I'm the only one who has OCD or anything like that. And it's just amazing. It's one of the most powerful things that I've seen from JTeen when sort of the volunteers are trained just to say, it's normal. We have many people who say the same thing.
The kids always, they'll come on and they'll think they're the only one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And you just have to say to them, actually, this is what we're dealing with
all the time,
every night. Yeah.
Not to make you not feel special, but
it's not. We're not. Yeah.
We're not
minimizing. Yeah.
There always is that lie. We're not minimizing what you are going through. And the truth is, everyone is unique, so it will present in different ways. You won't, your anxiety might be slightly different from someone else's anxiety. Yeah. But I've got to a stage where I tell people, I say to the young people that I see in my office, I say that you're going to have to trust me, but I will give you £5. Maybe it should go up now with inflation, right? I give you £5 because they say, they're like a bit nervous. What should they tell me because I'm going to judge them? And what am I going to think? I say, I promise you, whatever you're going to tell me, I've heard before. Yeah. And if you tell me something that I've never heard of, here's £5.
Have you ever given
and
the
I haven't
£5?
lost
you ever given?
£5
ever?
for many, many years. And it's just because ultimately, as people who work with people with emotional health problems, it's everyone's struggling.
We're dealing with similar things.
And we have to be able to impart that to our children. You're not abnormal and there's nothing wrong with you because you are going through a tough time.
I heard a talk and one thing pops out. She said, the question isn't, do you have anxiety? The question is, how much anxiety do you have?
Yeah.
which,
Especially,
you know, is it
especially
very low?
put
Is it
in
medium?
the
Is it
Jewish
very high?
DNA.
Why
Yeah.
didn't we have those issues? Like, I was growing up in the 90s, 80s, 90s, and no one ever was going for therapy. Or I didn't even know the word anxiety as a teen.
It just wasn't spoken about. Everyone had it.
It was there,
It was there, 100%.
as bad as it is today?
No.
Oh, people always ask me this. People always say, is it just gone worse, or do we just... look, we also know a lot more. We also have much more know-how, so we know how to deal with it more now than we did 30 years ago. But yeah...
I just think everything's so much more instant. Like, back in the day, I was babysitting like 8 of my siblings, and my parents were out, and I couldn't reach them. There's no
Right.
mobile phones. That I just had to deal with stuff.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
did just have to deal with stuff. Now, if my daughter texts me and I don't answer within a second, I get like all these angry emojis because, you know, she gets worried and
Yeah.
scared.
Well, you'll have to tell her that you've just been off your phone. Because
Yeah, just concentrating on other people. But yeah, so I think that's a factor as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we are living in a generation, but it's the world. The world is less resilient, and we're living in a much more luxurious and modern world. And therefore, one of the impacts is that we don't have the tools. You know, we're not come from a world war. We don't have the tools to cope with struggle in the same way that
it's like
we
we would
used to
not
do.
cope with the world war.
Yeah.
So it's just, and that's the reality. But but at the same time, those that are helping young people, therapists, and if support lines, we have to make sure that we are careful that we are empowering younger people. We're giving them tools to help themselves and to become more resilient, not just saying, oh, you know, poor you, and
Yeah.
you know, we
Everyone's struggling, so it's fine.
yeah. We want them to be able to feel confident that they can deal with their problems. Can we talk about perfectionism? Another
it's a big
very common theme, I think, especially in the Jewish world, where there's a lot of pressure on our kids to do well and to succeed. And one of the common things that kids say is, don't aim for perfection. It sets us up both to fail. And another one says, if I mess up, I feel like I failed you, not just myself. Please let me breathe. I'm still learning.
Wow.
So moving. So you can just imagine this child just feeling that whatever he or she does is just not enough.
I think perfectionism is the underlying cause for a lot of things, because high anxiety levels very often comes with the fact that you want the world around you to be perfect, and when it's not, then your anxiety just skyrockets.
Is that feeding down from parents, or can a child just be a perfectionist?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Right.
Because you'll see in families there are some people who are more aligned to perfectionism than others.
Right.
Even though, interestingly, I feel that it can show up in different ways. So for one person, perfectionism could be the way they look. For another person, it could be the way they achieve. For another one, it could be their social standing. So actually, perfectionism can show up in very different ways. But the underlying quality is this perfectionist, quality. And very often it does feed down from parents, but sometimes it is just nature, nature
or a middle
society.
child wanting more attention.
Yeah, or society. I mean, take social media, that's feeding into our perfectionist qualities like massively. Everything is perfect on social media. And even when people do the whole my life's falling apart, it still has a perfectionist quality to it.
It's
So
perfectly
falling apart,
It's curated.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Social media definitely is putting the pressure on to have the perfect life.
Between the filters, everyone showing the best highlight of their life, which is what everyone shows.
Yeah.
It's really
when I was
huge.
younger and we'd come back from school after the summer holidays, everybody had the most amazing summer. It doesn't matter if they were at home in Bournemouth or in Israel, wherever they went. We all came back and we all had the best summer, but we weren't comparing our summers on a rainy London summer afternoon to our friend who's filtered on a beach in Miami. So, we didn't have that.
But also it was much easier to just tell your friends you had the best summer, and you couldn't even compare. There was no comparative. Like, I had the best summer. Well, what did you do? Well, we did this, this, and this. So maybe it was a little bit of a jealousy, when she started explaining what she did. But there weren't photos in the same way. You couldn't show the things. And here it's instant as they're on the holiday. So you're in your holiday trying to enjoy yourself. They're in their holiday trying to enjoy themselves. And like everyone's just watching everyone else.
Someone once told me she has one of these picture perfect Instagram lives, and she said that actually that holiday that I was showing everybody, that was the worst. I was crying every time I turned off the camera. So
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
But I think a lot of the messaging that parents give to, let's say, to their children in schools. Let's say if you get 100% or you get 90, you are a wonderful person. And if you haven't done well and you're not succeeding, then you're not. And that messaging helps basically a person to feel that I'm only a success if I do well.
Yeah.
What we call basically conditional self-worth. My value is based on my grades, or my value is based on my success.
So I feel like in terms of that, in relation to that, that's one of the messages we can give over to our teens. If you try your hardest, then we're proud of you.
What if they're not trying their hardest? What if you've got a really lazy child who's getting really low grades and they're actually not trying their hardest? Can you tell them?
We still love you, but we're not happy with your grade.
Yeah.
And also to explain to them that this kind of quality won't really get you anywhere in life, because whatever you do, you need to put an effort.
Yeah.
So, okay, don't work hard. Your grade will probably show it. I think the hardest ones are the ones where they don't work hard and they still get the marks.
Right.
Then they think they could just
I never
sail
had that
through.
problem.
They can usually,
Neither
but
did
they
I.
can usually, those ones can usually sail through
They
life.
usually can.
Yeah.
They usually can.
Yeah.
Right. And that is probably where
I'm not so sure. I think that ultimately
It catches
it's
up.
effort. Your successful people will put effort in.
some kind of effort though for one person.
Because
to
it
sit
might
down.
not be academically, it could be in marriage you have to put effort. It could be when their own children are struggling.
Yeah.
If you've never learned how to put in effort, and you've never learned how to, roll up your sleeves and to try when it's hard, I think you're missing a huge ingredient for life.
Yeah, nothing worthy is really easy, is it? So, yeah.
Here's another big one. When I talk, I don't need fixing. I need listening. I knew you two would like this one because as men, we're very good at fixing. We're not such great listeners.
Good.
Every time I open up, you jump in with advice or quotes. I don't want this. I don't want to be fixed. Just listen.
Okay, so I have something funny. When my kids share something with me and then I start talking in a certain way, they go, I did not call JTeen.
Don't give me your therapist voice.
Don't give me your therapist voice. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think as parents, we're fixers. I mean,
and just
that's
sometimes
my
they just want to
tendency.
talk.
Yeah, we just want to make things better because we obviously don't want our kids to struggle, but they just want to share.
And sometimes we just maybe have to say to them, so sorry, it sucks. Yeah. Shame.
And we're the same.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do because I know myself. Let's say I can see somebody as a client. I can see and it could be the same problem as my own child. And with your own child, it's because you're feeling so worried. There's also worry.
You taught me something, Yaakov.
Go
I
on.
remember I was speaking to you about, one of my kids, and you said to me, a mother can never be a therapist to her own children.
Yeah.
So if your child needs to speak to someone, they shouldn't be coming to you to fix it. And that was a very big lesson because we try, but sometimes, we're not just the mothers. We're the mothers, but we're not therapists. I don't know, in your case, you're both therapists, so it's different. But in my case, I'm obviously not. So, that was a very big lesson, Yaakov, because I kept trying to fix a situation, actually, that I couldn't fix.
Well, sometimes, ironically, the way you fix it is by not fixing it's back to what we said before. It's just that they know that you're there and they know that they can just talk. And as we always see, very often they just want to express themselves. And sometimes the first thing that they're talking about is actually not really the biggest problem.
Yeah.
And so you jump in and start giving advice, and you've just ruined the conversation. But it's not easy, because sometimes you really feel
that's what we see
quite
on
strongly
JTeen.
about something.
Yeah, we see that on JTeen. They're calling in about something, but actually they're calling in about something completely different.
Completely.
Yeah.
But I think that as parents, our emotional, attachment to this child does
Get in the way.
come and get in the way because we just want them to be happy and healthy. So as soon as they share something, we do generally kind of try to fix, but they do just want to be listened to.
Yeah, sometimes look, I don't like sort of giving out these rules, because then we're disempowering parents, because people who might be watching or listening to something, oh my God, I can't do this. Everything has to be done in a, sometimes we do need to give advice, and sometimes we do need to say, well,
100%.
have you thought about doing this and doing that? It's just that we should allow our children to sort of speak before rushing in.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, you've got more, as parents, you've got more experience, you know your children, so you've got a lot to bring to the table and to add, but just sort of at the right time, I think.
I think it's just the first conversation you have with them. Shouldn't be like, well, why didn't you try this?
Yeah.
It should be like, oh my gosh, I can't be going through that. And then, right, how can we work on this together? We don't want this, whatever it is, to continue, so let's see what we can do.
Listen to this one. Support my dreams, not just the ones you wish I had. It hurts so much when you laugh at my dreams. Just because I don't want to be a lawyer or to be in Coilal doesn't mean I'm lost.
Okay, so when your child tells you they want to be a fireman, you're like, go for it.
Well, it's a big challenge, because, again, living in a community, we do care what people think, and we have our ideals, each person according to whatever, is your ideal. And when your children don't want to follow your dream, how do you deal with it? Any of your children want to be a therapist?
Yeah, it's
No,
a very big
currently
question.
not.
It is a very big question, and sometimes, like, I'm like half joking to my daughter. I always say to her, you can carry on my activewear business, and you can carry on B7 Active, and I'll be retired. So she'll say to me, okay, I'm calling it S7 Active. But and then she tells me, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, but I'm giving you a whole business. No, I don't want to do that.
Right.
So I really, according to what you're saying, is I need to not say that, and I need to say to her, what's your dream? What do you want to do when you're older?
Yeah, or sometimes it's from parents that haven't actually achieved their dream. You often see it. They hoped they would reach certain levels. It could be in learning, it could be in business, but they never reached it. And now they're desperate for their children to achieve what they never did. Right. And there's the pressure there from the kids to live out my dream.
It's interesting. I think that's definitely true. The parents that want their child to be the lawyer, the doctor, whatever it is that they wanted them to be. But this is where you have to hold the fact that you want your child to develop a sense of self, which is really important, to kind of develop who they are and who they want to be, but also your natural intuition as a parent, which is, I think, and I see that this is good for you.
Right.
And this is a direction that I would like to put you in, because I see it as the right direction for you. But then that's where, if you have open communication, there's no, you have to do this, but let's talk about it. This is what I see for you. You tell me what your, desires, hopes,
If you see that you've got like an arty, creative child, you'll want to guide them into that space rather than, put them...
Well, ideally, but it's very, very hard.
It's hard.
Because especially in our world, let's say you want your child to be able to sit there and to learn, and he's got ADHD and he can't.
Right.
That's it's sort of really difficult for parents, because, this is what I wanted my child to do, and this is what a regular child should be doing, and now he can't.
Yeah.
And to come around and to sort of be able to give your child autonomy to be able to be a bit more independent, it is a big, it's a test. It's a test. It's a test for parents when your child could have certain special needs, or could just have be different to you.
Right.
Don't
or when one whole family, are all a certain way and one child's different.
Yeah.
That's, I think, very challenging. And the child must find it challenging too, because they're the odd one out.
Yeah.
But children do have hopes and dreams, and we should encourage them. But at the same time, not pressurize. And at the same time, also, I think we have a voice. I don't believe in parents saying to their children, just do whatever makes you happy. Right. What is happiness? I don't know what that is yet.
Is pressure ever good?
It's a whole big conversation, isn't it?
Pressure in terms of that they should...
do well.
To pressurize... I think pressurizing children is never a good thing.
Right.
And children pressurizing themselves is never a good thing.
Well, yes, but at the same time, we don't want to encourage children not to have any ambition, and they do need to be motivated, and they need to learn perseverance, and we need to I think we will sometimes have to push them, but pushing and pressure don't have to be the same thing. I think, and a lot of it's modelled from us.
Yeah, they watch us. Yeah.
They watch everything.
So if we're taking the shortcuts the whole time, then why shouldn't they?
Right.
I don't know where this comes in, but I did have someone recently, and the father kept saying, you're not allowed to watch anything, and it's trafe, but then he realises his father keeps going into the toilet for a long time, and he's listening behind the door, and his father's watching a movie.
That sounds quite classic.
So that's not modelling at all. Don't know where that came into the cards, but
yeah, our children are watching everything basically.
Okay, let's end off with one which to me is, of all the messages that we often get from JTeen and the people that I see this as a growing problem, but also one that really saddens me when you see really amazing people with so much self-loathing and criticising themselves. So here's one which I want to end off with, and to hear from both of you about this one. Please don't criticise me for everything. I already criticise myself all day. Every day I feel like I'm failing, in school, at home, with Hashem. When you point out what's wrong, it just confirms what I already believe. I'm not enough.
So sad.
It is. It really always, sometimes it's the most talented people. It's one of the great ironies. It's the most talented people with so many qualities, and this is adults and this is grandparents that spend the whole time criticising themselves. So Tehilla, what you've seen people like that in your practice, people that always pulling themselves down?
Yeah. For some reason, our brains are wired that we have more automatic negative thoughts than automatic positive thoughts. So there's ANT and there's APT. I wish that we had more APTs, which is automatic positive thoughts. But our brains naturally, as I said, just think negatively. That does come into the whole perfectionism quality. But I think it's just natural, So by us criticizing them, which as parents we do, but we do have to realize that this is a sad reality. They don't think very highly of themselves very often, and they're just struggling with the fact they didn't do that, they didn't do so well on the test, and there's so many things.
So is that like more positive reinforcement?
Totally.
Okay.
Positive reinforcement. Really, it's really interesting because obviously a lot of our work in sessions is about replacing those thoughts, trying to understand those thoughts, trying to understand where they came from, if there is a root, or if it's just something that's natural, even though I think it's usually a bit of both, and trying to replace them for more positive thoughts. Very often you need to replace them with more neutral thoughts, as opposed to, yeah, I'm amazing. That doesn't really go so well because it doesn't mean anything to me, but I'm trying my hardest.
Okay.
I think it's just like for parents to realise that, because this is what it's showing us, like, with these kids are all coming out, and of so many are saying that we get it, we know when we've done wrong. Yeah. And often parents don't forget that they, let's say, I don't know, your child's been a bit clumsy and the milk bottle, they don't do
that's never happened in my house.
I'm showing how old they are, talking about milk bottles. But, so they've done something, and then we say, oh, how could you do it, and this and that. They don't need that, they know. So we just have to realise, as you were saying, that the more we criticise, the more their own inner voice starts criticising themselves. And then you get these unbelievable people that actually think themselves as nothings.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you both we've discussed lots of things, and a lot of them are really moving, and it's raw. It's what the children and young people really want us to know. So we've mentioned a lot of things. BatSheva, you first. What, if there's a single sort of idea or point that we've discussed today that you think would be a great takeaway?
Well, I feel like I've just been at a parenting class. I've never done any parenting classes, by the way. I'm interested to hear what you think of them.
You might want to start a new career.
So I've never really gone to any parenting classes. So thank you for both of your information. But what I've learned from being here today is that we have to encourage and enable and empower our children, and obviously to praise them and to make them feel strong. But I think from my perspective, and I think there's not enough said about it, and we definitely haven't even said anything about it today, but exercise. And I think our children need to be encouraged to exercise a lot more, especially here in London. It's not really a thing. I think the doctors need to be encouraging our children, therapists need to be encouraging our children, and we need to, after school, if we see they're frustrated, go on a bike ride, go jump on the trampoline for 10 minutes. just that the children should move and exercise and just release those endorphins so they themselves get those, like, you know, the happy hormones. So yeah,
it is really fascinating. Endorphins are literally happy hormones, and very often when we're feeling low, our go-to is, I'm just going to sit on the couch and be in this low mood and wait for it to pass. But actually, if we just get out, get active, then it will pass that way.
Right. So if your child comes home,
benefit.
If your child comes home feeling really down and feeling really rubbish, we should be encouraging them
movement.
to
And also, a lot of our thinking comes from when we're just stationary. When you're moving, it's much harder to ruminate. So if you're on the go, if you're moving, then you have less time, which is why 11:15 is usually when people message in JTeen, because that's when they're slowing down. You know, so being on the go is totally an anecdote for, you know, negative thoughts and anxiety.
Even an antidote. Tehilla, what's your...
I was so confident there.
Tehilla, what is your final takeaway from today?
So my final takeaway is that teenagehood is a super confusing time. We're transitioning from being a child to an adult, and transitions are never easy. Really, teenagehood, Yaakov, do you agree, is quite similar to toddlers? Teenagers?
Well, I've got two
a little bit
teenagers,
similar.
so I've got to be careful what I
But
say.
like, they're exactly, I know. But they're growing into themselves. So a lot is happening for them. My takeaway is currently I am seeing a teenage client, and the parents are amazing, and they're allowing me to coach them along the way. I'm their, you know, support line, and they are running everything by me, which is amazing. And I spoke to the teen about this. I said, I am working with both of you together. And one of my takeaways is that in conversation with her, she actually desperately wants her parents to know what she's doing, which is going to be very difficult for her parents to hear.
Behind their back, you mean?
Behind their back,
Okay.
sorry, yeah. But she's doing it anyway. So we need to find a way to share this with her parents where, you know, they're able to process it. And obviously, we want to move away from any negative behaviors. You know, my goal is to make sure that she's extremely safe and that everything's above board. But really, she's like, I actually would prefer that they knew.
Doesn't that boil down to we need to make sure that our children can feel they can come and tell us anything?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Even though I think even if you have an open
share.
relationship, sometimes there's certain things that are very hard to share with your parents. There's certain behaviors that children are doing that at the end of the day are going to be very hard for the parent to hear. Let's be honest, for us to process.
Yeah.
And are going to be very hard for the child to hear, which is maybe where you say, can you come out to me first? You know, can you, speak to me about it first? Maybe we need to just be questioning them a little bit more about their emotional well-being, their physical well-being. If they're doing anything that they maybe shouldn't be and they would like to talk to us about, maybe we should just be doing check-ins.
Just check-ins.
Yeah, just check-ins. But really, children want to feel safe. So if the space, the home that they're in is a safe place, then they do want their parents to know. And then there's obviously the next stage, which is if they're engaged in behaviors that are damaging or, you know, addictive, then how do we work through this? But the hiding from their parents takes a massive toll on them. Of course. So not only are they doing things, they're living in secrets, you know? So that's my takeaway.
That is a very, very important takeaway. I think my takeaway actually is from seeing, and we've talked maybe about 10 of the most common things, but there's a lot. But actually, although maybe people who might be listening to this might be thinking it's a bit overwhelming, I think from all these things that the kids have been telling us, and the young people and the teens, it's actually, as we said, it boils down to, it's not that complicated. You don't have to read parenting manuals. You don't have to feel that you have to be the model parent. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be real. It's about basically really being supportive and allowing our children to have conversations. We don't have to have all the answers, so we can take the pressure off, because the kids they don't want the answers. They just want us to be real and to be there for them. And I think if we can do that, easier said than done, I know.
Yeah.
Then, you know, our kids want us to be parents, and they will thrive with that. BatSheva, Tehilla, thank you very much for joining Between the Lines.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.